can we expect from you on Sunday nights with this show?
Oh man, so for people who go back with me, I think they'll see that like some of the energy and stuff that I did kind of earlier when I had a bit more runway and was able to kind of be a bit more creative in some of the things that I'm doing. Now we're able to do that with a whole different set of resources. And so this show for me is going to be we start on everything with what my idea is on something, whatever the topic happens to be. And then that idea, I map it out as clearly as I can, what I got in my head, and now we hand that to the team. And now it's like, how do we bring this to life? Like, how do we make this into 3 dimensions? And so, if you follow me, you know that regardless of what the topic is, whatever direction I'm gonna go in is gonna be the one that I decide that I want to go in. Like, just because you think something's a big deal doesn't mean I do, right? Just because you don't realize why something matters doesn't mean that I don't realize why something that I can't see it. And so we're going to take those things, and I got a team of writers, some comedy writers, some not. We've got them. We got a full field department. We got a full news department. And so now we got a chance to take what comes out of my brain and beef it up and turn it into something as rich and as vivid and as entertaining as we can.
So you're an executive producer. You touched on you're going to be bringing yourself to this, which is a little different, I guess, than what we've seen you in before if we started with you at ESPN. But as you mentioned, your podcast has a lot of your personality in it and a lot of interaction with your fans. So from that perspective, will there be a manner for fans to participate and talk back with you and have a conversation with you? Because one of the things that I think that Twitter and people have enjoyed over the years about their relationship with you was that you talk back and you can relate to a lot of their feelings. So is it open for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, with social stuff, I think that we will, and we're going to have some elements of the show that are going to involve some interactions, like with people, like on the street, kind of talking about stuff that's going on. I've definitely dialed back from some of that stuff because it ain't as healthy as it used to be, actually going back and forth with the wonderful people of the internet. But we're going to figure out how to organize it a little better. But there'll definitely be this. I envision this as definitely being the kind of show that allows for conversation about it, right? Like, I'm not necessarily going to be smashing atoms or all of a sudden everybody has to rethink what they thought before just because I said it. But we feel like we got something that people are going to want to talk about.
One of the phrases that I heard was that we're going to be following the money with this show. We're going to be delving into topics and things that the economic intersection of sports and this whole world. What do you think that your perspective brings to that particular topic?
Well, I think the big thing to understand about that is that's not meant in really is like some kind of high-minded way, right? Like I'm not going to be out here trying to explain to you franchise valuations and all of this stuff. Like if it's relevant on some things, that's cool. Like this isn't going to be like a John Oliver type of approach, and I love that show, but that's just not what our show is going to be. But the truth is, money informs so many of the decisions that we ultimately see. Like people are into sports for recreational reasons, but they've also kind of sold the money as part of the fun. Like there's a whole lot of people out there now that look up to general managers and salary cap managers the way that people used to look up to athletes. Like that's kind of a place where we are. And so a lot of that stuff is already informing what we're talking about in sports. Like I don't think we're not necessarily going to be doing anything different there, but I think I probably have a more sophisticated and attuned eye for recognizing some of those factors when they come up. And then when they do, I'm going to deal with them like I always have, which is just talking to people about them in English. Like I think the one concern I have with pushing too hard on the idea that we'll be following the money is that I think when people hear that, it sounds like we're going to be teaching some kind of class, but the truth is I'm just going to talk to you like you're a grown up about things that I am absolutely positive that you can understand.
Okay, so you mentioned comedy as being a part of this. When did you figure out that you were funny and that you wanted to bring that to a show that you were involved in from your perspective?
Well, I would say that I brought that to every show that I've been involved in. The difference is you can't just do stuff off the top of your head on television, right? Like it can't just be like in the rhythm of or whatever. People have to be able to plan what you're doing. And there is nothing harder in television than being funny on command. Like rehearsed funny is the hardest thing to do. And so a big part of what we're doing and like with the writing and everything else that we're going for is I'm telling everybody this needs to be written like somebody would say it, right? Like all these clever writer tricks and all the fancy words that you can use, that's not going to work because I'm not that kind of guy. Like I'm not a comedian. I recognize that, but I know how to use humor as a device. And so I feel like I've always done that, but now we got more tools and I could come up with like, yo, you know what I think would be funny, and come up with the idea, and people who are better at writing comedy stuff can then help bring that idea to life, and they write it out, then it comes back across me, and I can look at it and see if that's what if that's the kind of thing that I feel like doing, if I think something should be a little bit different, and then go from there. So yeah, to me, the comedy element of it is really just like everything else. The way I view this show is stuff that I've already done, but now we're going to be able to do it with more resources.
And Adam McKay is one of the producers of this. How did that all come together for you?
So the way this all came together was Adam and Todd Schulman, his right hand man, and the two creators of this show were already in place. And there was a deal for a pilot that involved somebody else. And then that other person had to walk away from it or was no longer involved. I'm not exactly sure what happened. But from there, those people started calling around, and I was one of the people they called. And McKay has said that he had wanted to do a TV show with me since something like 2015, but I was kind of knee deep in a contract at that point. But I had been somebody that he had his eye on for a while. And so when this came up, he was 100% on board with me doing it and was like, willing to go stand on a table about me doing it. Because to be fair to HBO, I do Back on the Record with Bob Costas, which is a bit more of a standard news magazine type of show. And they had just approved for me to appear on that show. And so you imagine that the guy they tell you is going to be coming with all the deep, smart takes on the Bob Costas show. And now this show that you thought was going to be a funny man show, they're saying he's supposed to be the guy to do that one too. And that was, I had to convince them. They had totally fair doubts about whether I was the right person to do something for this kind of show. But I think after we did the pilot, there was no question, at least for them, that I was the person for this.
So, in wrapping up, one word to describe what viewers have to look forward to on Sunday nights.
This is gonna be fun. Like the biggest thing about this, I think that's more important than anything else for me for people to understand is this is going to be fun. Like I don't want people to think. I said when I did my last show, High Noon, that the first thing people talked about was how smart it was going to get canceled. And it got canceled. And the people who really missed that show, the first thing they talk about was how smart it was. Like it's got to be fun. If it's not going to be fun and compelling, people are not going to watch it. And I think this show is going to be fun.
Okay, and last question. Are we keeping the hair permanently? Is that the look? I like it. I think we should stick with it.
So the thing is, if it goes, it can't ever come back. Like it take like 3 months to get to a place where it can be halfway decent for people to see. And even now I'm stretching the boundaries of it a little bit. So I'm gonna ride this out because I know that once I come back home, there's no leaving the house again.